Leon Edwards, man, what a good job Leon's doing. Oh, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting this for Leon. Doing such a good job. He is making everything so interesting with this Chimaev fight. And, I mean, what a difference a day makes. We're going back 3 weeks ago. He won't even do the fight. Doesn't even want to do the fight, and there's no rank, all these different things. Agrees to the fight and has completely changed his mindset. And Leon's coming out, and he was talking about Chimaev, and everything Leon said was true. There was no trash talk, and he wasn't even putting Chimaev down. He was shining his own wheels. He said, I'm going to beat this guy. Here's the reasons why, and here's the reasons why I am not as impressed as you all are. But he didn't put Chimaev down. He didn't say this guy's a bum. He didn't say this guy's anything. He said, look, understand the situation Chimaev's in. He's done this 3 times. He did them all successfully. He's finishing guys. Go look at my record. Done it a hell of a lot more times than 3, and I've finished a hell of a lot of guys myself. He then brought in an idea on the organization, talking about the UFC, and he said they've done this many times. They take some guy, they get captivated by him, they try to build him up the fast way, and the guy falls down. There's levels to this thing. Running into me was a very bad idea for everybody else involved except for me. Reason I bring this to you is what Leon is doing accidentally. Leon's just answering questions that are asked of him. But what Leon is doing accidentally is he is sowing doubt in the mind of Chimaev, at least in theory. You can talk trash about a guy and you can get him worked up. But to make a guy have doubt and begin to question himself, you don't talk trash, you got to talk truth. Truth. Here's the facts, here's the numbers. By the way, Johnny Walker, I mean, just a recent example where this same thing was happening. I was at Madison Square Garden for the weigh-ins when Walker fought Corey Anderson. And when Corey walked out, there was almost no applause. When Johnny walked out, I mean, that crowd was going crazy. And they thought that Johnny was the guy, he was going to beat Corey and he's going to draw right into Jon Jones. And you know what? He might have. If you can remember that time, he might have. If he would have beaten Corey Anderson that night, I don't know that there would have been another. I think he would have gone right into Jon Jones. I only bring that up, and it's not an attempt to put down Walker. It's an attempt to say that Leon's not wrong, that there are certain guys who splash on the scene and get a big push right away who turns out wasn't ready for the push. They got on something called a roll. We have seen rolls before. Frank Shamrock got on a roll. Now, Frank turned out to be straight up great, but he did get on a roll. Do you guys remember that, where Frank couldn't be in the ring more than 20 seconds? Ronda went through that. Ronda couldn't be in the ring more than a minute. Just couldn't do it. I mean, Frank was on such a roll at one point. I remember Frank picking someone up and slamming them and they were knocked out. Like he couldn't go in there and not just look absolutely dominant. But if you went back and looked at it, you know, over time, Frank started to struggle more. He was still winning, but he's now struggling. And you could, oh, well, you got on a roll. There was good momentum right there. You could say that about Ronda, finding these arm bars over everything. There was good momentum right there. For whatever reason, we do see that in sport, though. Happened with Johnny, right? It's exactly what happened with Johnny. Man, he got on this roll, and he had this length, and he had a cool look, and he did some funny things, and he got everybody's attention. He was training in Thailand, and he was rumored to be a great kickboxer, and he's going to go beat up Jon Jones. I mean, it's just one of these things. And he runs into Corey Anderson, who was just flat better at it and wasn't scared of him, and off you go. Now, all of a sudden, you're in the fight game, right? You go from the momentum in the hype game to now you're in the fight game. Win some, you lose. One of those things. And for Leon to propose that that's what's happening to Chimaev, hey, you got on a nice little roll. Now you're going to deal with the number 3 guy. The buck stops here. That's between the two of them. But it is hard to imagine, as great as Chimaev is, and I happen to be a Chimaev, right? What do you call it? Bandwagoner? I happen to believe what I'm seeing is more than a roll. I happen to think we have something very unique and special here. But how unique and special would a guy have to be to go whip Leon's ass? Can he beat Leon? I'm sure he can. Can Leon beat him? I'm sure he can. If you think for a moment that Chimaev or anybody else is going to run over Leon, Usman didn't run over Leon. He beat him. He controlled the match. He worked his ass off that night. I'm only suggesting for you. Don't forget what we're about to see here. You're going to see a contest. There's nothing within Leon's history to make us believe he's going to get thrown down and mauled and can't protect himself and get back up. Or he's going to be on his feet and take a hook and not know how to defend himself and go out in the very first round. There's nothing there. Right? You're going to see a fight in a main event, which means you're going to have championship rounds. You're going to see something new. I think that's what Leon is trying to offer you. Leon is saying, I'm going to beat this guy. Again, that's between them. But I feel as fans, we can agree we are going to see something new. We're going to see a second round. If we see a second round, we've now seen something new. And Leon went further to say, I believe outside of a championship fight, Chimaev is the biggest fight for me. Which I also think Leon's right about. I don't think Leon has talked any kind of trash. I think he has just laid out some facts that many of us didn't want to accept as true, because it's fun. You get this new guy comes in and he's exciting. He's this new guy and there's something fun about that. But then you do have the reality check of, well, it's two guys with 2 arms and 2 legs, a couple of gloves on. I mean, this is even. Let's see what happens here. Break down what Leon said, though, for fun, because he said, aside from a championship fight, this is the biggest fight for me. And after this fight, I expect to be fighting for a championship. I'd like to know which one. Everybody keeps on acting as though 170 pounds doesn't have 2 championships, but it does. Usman has one of those championships. Masvidal has the other. I do think that Leon makes a very good point that Chimaev is the biggest thing for him specifically, not just for anybody. For him directly, he could use a Chimaev right now. I agree. But when you're starting to talk about championship fights are bigger, I think it would come down to which fight. The rematch with Usman or the rematch with Masvidal. You and Usman done it under the unified rules. You and Masvidal did it in the back. It's a rematch either way. It's a championship either way. So which championship are you referring to, Leon?